Happy Monday to you. This is John McEntyre Show live. I'm John McEntyre. We're working through some technical difficulties here, but we're getting it on track. Today is Monday, May. I almost said January. I still said January. Almost said January, but it is May 19th, 2025. I was listening to something and they said January like 25 times in a row. And so January is stuck in my mind now. So hopefully I won't be dating stuff January the 19th, because we're well past that. We're almost going into our sixth month. So we're almost 2 quarters into this month. So hopefully everyone is on target financially or getting themselves on target out there. Hope y'all had a good weekend. I know I did. It was hot. So I found that I stayed where it was cool and shady the entire time. We were actually invited to something, and I was like, "Is it outside?" It was for Sunday, and I was like, "Is it outside?" And they said, "Oh yes, everything. The entire festival is outside. It starts at well, it was Saturday and Sunday, and it was starting at 2 o'clock on Saturday, which was definitely a no. Um, and then it was going to be on Sunday, and outside. Now I'm good. I passed on it. I was like, everything has to be inside. We're going to bring everything inside for us. So that's how our weekend went. Hopefully yours went well. Today I'm going to cover an actual a question that I received. But before I get into the question, uh, I don't want to call it. I don't want to call it a rant. I'm not exactly ranting. I'm just building the case of. I've done a show on it before where I talked to people have asked, what's your, the best investments. And my number one investment is education, financial education. When it comes to finances, pretty much every area of life, you should start with education. Whether it's your health, educate yourself about, your health, what it would take for you to be healthy. Um, whatever you're going to study in life, whatever your profession or your business or job, your career, whatever it's going to be, you have to have the education for it. And so, if you're going to be effective, if you're going to be a successful, and that applies just as well to personal finance. Um, a lot of times, financial mistakes are just the lack of education. You just didn't know, or maybe it was something that used to work. It's like outdated education and information that that's being used, and it's not it doesn't pertain to today's times, even though a lot of education and information can be cyclical. What worked 10 years ago or 12, 15 years ago, it may work today, because the markets may be similar, the times may be similar, the economic times, it could be similar, so they may work, they come and go. It's not to say that things, once it stops working, it no longer works. It could also work again. um but this particular situation, this was just overall, it was a conversation that just showed a lack of total education. I'm listening to two much younger guys. They were talking about, both of them were talking about cryptocurrency, and in which I've answered questions on cryptocurrency. It is an excellent investment, although it's very volatile. It has a very high, reward, but the risk is extremely high. Also, it's very volatile. Me personally, I put cryptocurrency in the same category as commodities, because they are volatile like that. The commodities market is extremely volatile. Bad weather can affect the commodities market. You know, so things like, and when I say bad weather, for instance, like wheat, cotton, the cash crops. Um, if we have to import it, for instance, the tariffs have been, we are assessing tariffs on other countries, and the countries are assessing tariffs on us. Well, that's affecting the commodities market. Those things that we need and that we depend on from other countries, certain things that we don't grow here in the United States, or it's not as abundant and we need the import. So I look at cryptocurrency the sort of the same way. It and the people that are doing well in it that I've talked to, they was like, today I can be, $500 in the hole. Tomorrow I could be, 5,000 up. It all depends, and you have a lot of is still in its infancy. So you have a lot of people that are, you have a lot of crooks out there. There's some lawsuits that are coming into the courts now behind, cryptocurrency, Bitcoin, and those other styles. I'm not as well versed in it, and I know just enough to know that I'm not ready to get into it. So maybe a little bit later. And I'm listening to someone who's an expert in it. Well, these two gentlemen that were talking about it, two younger guys, I was happy to hear them talking about, financial stuff, but one of them made the statement and the other one agreed to it. Cryptocurrency is the new stock. Young people, we don't trade paper stock. We don't trade paper stock. We trade cryptocurrency. We don't invest in, because, stocks that's old. And I just didn't say anything because I was just wanting to hear, what was the logic in that. And I never heard the logic. That's all that was said. It was just like a statement. We don't do stocks. The younger generation don't do stocks. We do cryptocurrency. And I'm saying to myself, okay, so basically what I'm hearing a lack of financial education. This is low financial literacy. It would have been different if they would have said, yes, I have my, my insurance and all of this, because I threw in a few little questions here. I was like, so all of your money is there. You don't have any money, in insurance. You don't have anything in here. No, that's for the older generations. And I'm like, okay, so you're just banking your entire future on the ups and downs of cryptocurrency. You don't have a plan in place. It's not part of a plan. It's just something that's new, is shiny, and that's where your money is. And that's where you're putting your money, and you're up one day and you're down another, and you're not taking any out, and you're not saving or anything like that. It's all cryptocurrency. So that's a recipe for disaster. That's definitely a recipe for disaster, because cryptocurrency, it's just another investment class is what it is. That's all that it is. It's just another investment. It's not the end all, the end all be all. It's not nothing like that. Although there's the people, the pioneers of it are extremely wealthy people. They're extremely wealthy, but so are the pioneers of stocks, certain types of other investments, the pioneers of real estate investment, the pioneers of, all types of investments. The first in, they are, some of the wealthiest people. I know one of the stories that I always share, especially, maximizing opportunities, which that's what investment is. You want to exploit opportunities, is, there were three founders of Apple. Well, it's Macintosh in the beginning. And one pulled out in like 12 weeks. He pulled out of the company, even though he didn't invest in any money into it. He just pulled out because he just could not handle the stress of, thinking that he was going to lose something. He was thinking he was going to lose his house, because he had a family already. He was older. He had a family already. So he thought all of this stuff in his mind, everything was going to be a catastrophe, not understanding, not educating himself like Steve Jobs and Wozniak, that once you create a corporation, you're no longer liable personally. So he didn't even think about that. So they basically, in less than a year's time, they gave him $2,300 and he walked away. And he's alive today. He's out in Nevada. He lives in Nevada. Can't call his name right off the top of my head. and that was for 10%. What he did, he actually designed the logo, that Apple logo, the first logo. He designed that. So he was a very valuable guy. And he did know technology. He pulled out, had he stayed in, that was 1976. 1980, they went public. He would have gotten $7 million right there. Then, not counting some of the other benchmarks. Apple has basically revolutionized the world, communication wise and technology. Today, his 10% is worth $320 billion. He's living out in Nevada on Social Security. He's dependent on Social Security and I think like a part-time job, something like that. But he gave up. That means 320 billion at just that 10% ownership. Today, he would be in the top 5 wealthiest people in the world off of just 10%. But he pulled out his fears, his emotions got the best of him, and his lack of education. His lack of education cost him $320 billion. So I tell that story to tie with this other story, that your education can help you and your lack of education can hurt you. Because a lot of people say, well, education is expensive. Like all of the investors, coaches, advisors, everyone say, you think education is expensive, try being uneducated. Being uneducated is more expensive. So that's why I had to get on my quick. It's not a quick soapbox. I've almost eaten up half the show talking about that. But that's the importance of financial education, because it is so noisy out here. People are just having these conversations, and to them it sounds very intelligent. The cryptocurrency, because and it's this, and they explain it down to it really surface. I mean, even the explanation was very surface of their knowledge, and I'm like, I'm not dealing with it. And I kind of feel like I know more than you about it because of the people that I talked to, because what they were saying, it was very repetitive, and it was basically gambling. I was listening to 2 gamblers talk. It was the equivalent of being in Vegas and they're saying, yeah, I did well on the blackjack table yesterday. Well, today it may not be the same. Or I hit on the slots yesterday. Okay, those same slots will probably take all of your money today because the house wins. So get the financial education. Just take some time. It's your number one investment. Don't do anything. Don't invest in anything. Don't make a purchase until you're educated. You don't have to know everything about it. I mean, then you can become paralyzed over the analysis. But you need to know what it is and how it pertains to you and your financial future. That's where that's the questions you need to ask yourself. How much do I need to know, and how does it pertain to my financial situation? All right, let's flip it here. The question, I've been asked the question a couple of times, and I actually thought that I had done a show for it, but I didn't. but the question, it was a simple question that was asked: what is the rule of 25? And rule of 25, it pertains to retirement. It's a retirement number, and a lot of time, what has made it brought it to the forefront of being very popular right now is there's this group out there, the FIRE group, FIRE, financially independent and retiring early. And so they use the rule of 25 as a guidance. It's not a hard and fast rule. Basically what the rule of 25 is, it's a simple way to estimate how much you need to retire comfortably. That's basically a quick down and dirty of it. And basically what it does, it provides a ballpark figure. So what you would do, just say you want to retire next year, and what you would need to do is multiply what you spend on a year, how much you need to live on in a year, and multiply it by 25. And that will give you the figure you would need to have saved. So for instance, and this is like I say, this is a rough estimate, and it's usually based on a 30-year retirement, and it's assuming like a 4% annual withdrawal rate from your investments. This is what your investments should do for you. So if you say I want to spend $100,000 a year in retirement, that means you would need to have saved $2.5 million, because you're planning for 30 years, you're planning to pull 4% from it. And these aren't hard and fast rules. These aren't hard. They're just ballparks. It's just to get you, it gives you a framework, something to work on, because there's other things that comes into play. Usually when people think of retirement, most are, like, in their 60s. They're thinking, most of the time in their 60s. And let's just put it that way. Let's put it in our 60s. There's other forms of income you may be receiving. Most people, they're going to rely on Social Security. As a matter of fact, 60% of Americans have classified Social Security as their number one form of income in retirement. That's what it's going to be. So let's keep that 100,000. You say that you're going to need 100,000 a year to live. Social Security, let's just say you're going to receive 40,000 annually from Social Security. So that means you would only need $60,000 from your investments. So the rule of 25 would mean you would only need to save $1.5 million. Me, I would keep it up. I would not put those other figures, include those other figures, because like I say, these aren't hard and fast. It doesn't work out that perfectly. It just gives you a framework to work from, because there's other things. It's a benchmark. That's the word I've been trying to think of. It's a benchmark. It's a benchmark figure just to work with, just to start the process of working with. You have to think of your risk tolerance in investments, because if you are extremely conservative and you're wanting to pull 4%, your savings may not be throwing off enough for you to pull off 4% every year for 30 years. You may not have the risk tolerance for that type of a portfolio. You also have to think of the sequence of return risk, your guaranteed incomes, like I said, Social Security, and the big one. What is everyone trying to? They're either trying not to pay, or they're trying to pay as little as possible. Taxes. You have to bring taxes into the equation. And you may have other, it also will depend on how you save the money, how it's invested, what vehicle it is in. Is it in a 401k? Is it in an IRA? Is it in both? Is it in a 403b? Whatever. You have to take into account, all those things come into account. But the rule of 25 is not a hard and fast. Like I say, it is just a benchmark. It will point you in the right direction. It will definitely point you. It is a starting point, but it's not a guarantee. It's definitely not a guarantee. Most people, they have a common misunderstanding that, to assume that the rule of 25, it guarantees success regardless of, the markets or personal circumstances. When in reality, like the other thing, it's a plan. It's a plan. It's not a placeholder. It is a plan, but it's not a placeholder. That's the way it was explained to me. And it's proven to be, very prudent to use it in that manner. Because we have these other rules of 72, with investment, how long would it take for your money to, double in the in investments, a rule of 25. And it's not hard and fast either. It all depends. If you have an aggressive portfolio, it could double quicker. If and if you're being extremely conservative, it could take much longer for it to, double and do all of that. Same thing with the rule of 25. It all depends. So with that being said, now you see the importance of needing education for yourself. And with education, you need the right people around you. Just so happen, we can help you with that. If you needed some assistance, needed to talk to a professional, give us a call, contact us, and we'll make sure and help you with that benchmark of the rule of 25 and pull those other pieces together into the picture. Because a plan is not one thing. A plan, like I said earlier, it's not cryptocurrency. It's not commodities. It's not stocks. It could be a combination of those things with everything else included into it. Your insurance, your budgeting, all of those other things that that comes into play, because not only do you have to build the wealth, you have to preserve it and protect it. And so that's where a plan comes in, and that's where you may need to talk to a professional. So it may be time for you to reach out and talk to us, get on our calendar and talk more about these things, because you may be close to retirement, or you may be in the beginning, or you may be in the middle, or you may be off track and don't know it. You don't know until you talk to someone, because like I said, that early conversation with these two guys, I was like, it was mostly emotional. It was mostly emotional, and it was a lot of almost like bragging. And it's always been that way. Before cryptocurrency, it was all, especially with guys, it has always been that conversation. Yes, I'm up today. I'm up. And then tomorrow they're thinking about jumping off of a bridge, because that investment is proven to not be so good, and they didn't know the downside of it. And so we're here to protect your money, protect you from the markets and scams, and above all, protect you from yourself sometimes. Because, and I'm in that same boat. I can be my own worst enemy. So that's why I'm not my advisor. So if you want to talk to someone, just give us a call. I'm going to close it out there. I'll be back next time. So tune in, same time, same channels. Don't forget to like if you're watching by YouTube, subscribe, like if you're on Facebook Live, like it, share it, let other people know about it. Tune in next time. Send in those questions, those comments, and those wallet wins, and we will share them and celebrate with you. So until next time, this is John McEntyre signing off.